My boyfriend abandoned me during cancer treatment, but the moment he thought I was rich, he became my full-time caretaker. That's when I exposed him in front of my family. My name is Elena, and for most of my life I believed love was something you proved by staying. I believed that if you loved someone deeply enough, you would endure anything with them, even sickness. That belief began to crumble the day my doctor looked at me with practiced sympathy and said the word cancer. The room felt smaller after that, the walls too white, the air too thin. I nodded like I understood, like I wasn't already falling apart inside. They called it aggressive rare, treatable but uncertain. I went home in a fog and sat on the couch next to my boyfriend Marcus. We had been together for 3 years. He was charming, attentive, and always knew what to say, or at least I thought he did. When I told him about the diagnosis, his body went stiff for just a second. Then he hugged me hard. Too hard, like he was holding something inside himself together. "I'm here," he said. "We'll get through this." For the first few weeks, he played the role perfectly. He drove me to appointments, posted pictures of us online with captions about strength and resilience, brought me flowers that smelled too fresh to be chosen carefully. Everyone told me how lucky I was, how supportive he seemed, but slowly things changed. He started canceling rides last minute, saying work was overwhelming even though he worked from home. He stopped sitting next to me on the couch, stopped asking how I felt. Once during treatment, he told a nurse, "She gets dramatic when she's tired, just ignore her." I laughed it off, but the nurse didn't. She looked at me with quiet pity. That was the first time I felt embarrassed for being sick. Then one night, everything shifted. I saw a message Marcus sent to my best friend. "You look amazing lately." She told me immediately apologized, even though she had done nothing wrong. That night, I lay awake listening to Marcus breathe beside me, and a terrible thought entered my mind. What if he wasn't pulling away because he was scared? What if he was already preparing to leave? I was getting better. I could feel it, but I wondered what would happen if I wasn't. That's when I decided to test him. Did you notice the first red flag before I did? Would you have confronted him immediately or waited? Testing someone you love feels wrong even when your instincts are screaming at you, but sickness changes the rules. It strips away politeness and replaces it with survival. I started small. I told Marcus my doctor was concerned that some of my numbers looked worse, that there might be complications. His reaction was subtle but unmistakable. He leaned back instead of closer. His replies shortened. He stopped touching me altogether. Days passed and he barely asked about my appointments. When I mentioned nausea, he sighed like I was inconveniencing him. At night, he turned his phone face down on the table. So, I escalated. I told him the cancer might be spreading, that treatment could take much longer, that my future was suddenly unclear again. That was when the distance became obvious. He stayed late in his office, claimed exhaustion, slept with his back to me. I cried alone in the bathroom more than once, not from pain but from realization. Then I told him about the inheritance. I said my great uncle had passed away, that I was shocked, that the money was significant, enough to change my life. I kept the number vague, just enough to sound real, just enough to sound tempting. The change was instant. Marcus brought home dinner that night. He rubbed my feet without being asked. He called me strong again. He posted another photo of us online, this time with a quote about love. Surviving adversity. I felt sick watching him perform, but I smiled. I listened. I recorded. One night, I heard him whispering into his earbuds, "I just need a few more months and then I'm out." My hands shook as I saved the audio. Something inside me hardened. I planned a family dinner. Told Marcus I wanted everyone together, just in case he loved the idea. Said it would remind people how supportive he had been. The night of the dinner, I told him I felt weak. Asked if he could cook my favorite meal. He said he was too tired and ordered takeout instead. When my family arrived, the room felt tight. Smiles stretched thin. Conversation forced. Halfway through the meal, I grabbed my side, let my breath shake. Closed my eyes. "This again," Marcus muttered. My mother asked him to repeat himself. He said he had done everything he could, that he had already done his part. I reached under the table, pressed play. The room went silent as his voice filled the space. "If she dies, I get sympathy. If she lives, I get her money. Win-win." My father stood up and pointed to the door. My mother shattered the vase at his feet. Marcus left without looking back. And in that moment, I realized cancer was never the worst thing that almost destroyed me. It showed me truth stripped bare and taught me that survival sometimes means choosing yourself even when love tries to convince you otherwise. And I was ready to face what came next. Would you have exposed him the same way I did? Was pretending to be weaker the right decision? The silence he left behind felt heavier than the dinner itself. No slammed doors inside my chest, no screaming, just the echo of truth finally spoken out loud. The next few days were strange. Not painful in the way cancer had been, but quiet in a way that forced reflection. My mother came over every morning with soup, even though I was strong enough to cook again. My father fixed the sink Marcus had promised to repair for months. My brother sent me a single message: "You're safe now." That meant more than anything. I didn't post about what happened. I didn't need to. People talk, they always do. Some mutual friends disappeared. Others sent awkward check-in texts. I let them fade. I had no energy left for explanations. My latest scan came back clear remission. I cried in the parking lot after the appointment, not from relief alone, but from grief. For the version of myself that had trusted without question, I thought that chapter was over. I thought exposure was the end. Then 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a message request from someone I didn't know. "I saw what he did to you. I think he's doing it again." Her name was Nina. My first instinct was to ignore it. I wanted peace, I wanted normal, but something about her words felt familiar. Urgent, afraid. I opened her profile, and there he was. Marcus, his arm around her shoulders. A photo posted 3 days earlier, the caption read, "My rock during a hard time." My stomach dropped. I asked for her number. She called almost immediately. "I'm sorry." She said, "I didn't know who else to talk to." She told me she found a journal while cleaning his apartment. My name was inside it, pages of notes, dates, observations. He called me a case. There were others too, women listed by name, each with a weakness, a loss, an illness, an inheritance. I felt cold listening to her speak, like my body recognized danger before my mind could process it. We met at a coffee shop. She brought printouts, screenshots, audio files, Marcus speaking clinically, detached analyzing, subject responds to affection after withdrawal. I felt sick. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't cruelty born from fear. This was calculated. Nina was young, barely in her 20s. Her hands shook as she asked, "What do we do?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew one thing. If I stayed silent, he would keep going. Cancer had already taught me how fragile life is. What it hadn't taught me yet was how strong purpose could feel. As I drove home with the folder on my seat, I realized something. I hadn't survived just to move on quietly. I had survived to stop him. And this time I wasn't doing it alone. Would you have gotten involved again or protected your peace? Do you think exposing someone like this is dangerous or necessary? I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table long after midnight, staring at the papers Nina had given me. Notes in Marcus's handwriting, cold, organized, intentional dates lined up with moments I remembered. The night he brought flowers, the day he skipped my appointment, the week he started pulling away. Seeing it written down stripped the memories of excuses. There was no misunderstanding, no miscommunication, only planning. The next morning, I called Nina. Her voice sounded tired. He had texted her repeatedly through the night, asking where she was, who she was with, why she hadn't come home. Control disguised as concern. We agreed to meet again, this time at a small public library where we could talk without being overheard. I brought coffee. She brought a USB drive. Inside were recordings. Marcus narrating like a scientist, talking about emotional withdrawal, financial leverage, estimated timelines. One file made my hands shake. Terminal illness scenario. That was me. I swallowed hard and kept listening. He spoke about my family, which ones were soft, which ones would be obstacles. I realized something. Then Marcus hadn't fallen into this behavior after my diagnosis. He had sharpened it. Nina showed me another list. 5 names. One of them belonged to a woman I knew, a friend who had gone through a divorce the year before. Marcus had been everywhere in her life back then. Helpful, supportive, present. I felt sick realizing how close the danger had been. Not just for me, but for so many others. "We need to warn them," Nina said. Her voice cracked. She was right, but we needed to be careful. We created a new email account. Anonymous, neutral. Just facts enough to plant doubt. Some women ignored us. One accused us of lying, but one replied, her name was Rachel. She had lost her husband, inherited his house. Marcus had encouraged her to sell, said the memories would hold her back when she saw his notes labeled widow strategy. She broke down. Her teenage son had never trusted Marcus, said he always tried to isolate them. Separate conversations, private moments. That was his pattern. Isolation, first dependency, second extraction last. By the end of that meeting, Rachel changed her locks, blocked his number, and hugged us like we had pulled her back from a ledge. Driving home, I felt something shift inside me. Fear still existed, but purpose had taken its place. Cancer had taken months from my life. Marcus had almost taken my future. I wasn't going to let him take anyone else. Would you warn strangers even if it put you at risk? Do you think patterns like this are easy to miss? The more we uncovered, the more I realized Marcus was not reacting. He was executing. Every interaction he had ever had with me suddenly felt staged. Every moment of comfort felt rehearsed. Every apology felt calculated. Then my phone rang from an unknown number. "Is this Elena?" The man sounded nervous. "Young. My name is Ryan. I work with Marcus. He asked me to recover some deleted files from his laptop. What I found didn't sit right with me." My heart raced. We met at a coffee shop near his office. He slid a flash drive across the table. Inside were spreadsheets, timelines, predicted outcomes. Marcus tracked emotional labor like currency: time spent, money invested, expected return, a 5-year plan, 8 women properties, trust funds, insurance payouts. I felt nauseous. That night, Nina stopped answering her phone. I drove to her apartment. Her car was gone. Her lights were off. Then my phone buzzed. One message. "He knows." I didn't think. I called my brother, told him everything, and we drove. Marcus's family had a lake house. Isolated, quiet. Perfect. His car was there. Through the window, I saw Nina sitting rigid on the couch. Marcus pacing. Talking, cornering. She wasn't hurt, but she wasn't free. We debated calling the police, but no crime had been committed yet. Just pressure, just manipulation. I texted her, "Are you safe?" One word, yes. But her body said no. I called Marcus. He answered smoothly. I told him I had everything. The files, the recordings, the testimonies. He tried gaslighting, tried minimizing, tried calling me confused from treatment. So I told him the truth. I'm in remission. The relapse was fake. His silence was loud. When he realized he had lost control, he shifted tactics. He opened the door, gestured, told Nina she was free to leave. She didn't hesitate. When she reached us, she collapsed into tears, shaking, relieved. Marcus stood in the doorway watching his experiment walk away. I don't understand what you think you found, he said. Research notes. Nothing more. I played the audio, the win-win line. His mask cracked. What do you want? He asked. I wanted him to stop, to disappear, to never touch another vulnerable life again. He laughed, so we left. And for the first time since my diagnosis, I realized survival didn't end when cancer did. Sometimes the real fight starts after. Would you have confronted him directly or gone to authorities? Do you think people like this ever truly stop? I thought exposing Marcus would make him retreat, disappear, move on to safer ground. I was wrong. Predators don't stop when they're caught, they adapt. Within days, he began controlling the narrative, telling mutual friends I had a breakdown after treatment, that the medication made me paranoid, that Nina was unstable and obsessed. Some people believed him, others didn't. I stopped caring which category they fell into. What mattered was safety. Then my apartment was broken into. Nothing valuable was taken. No electronics, no jewelry, just my laptop, and a single rose left on the kitchen table. No note, no explanation. The message was clear: I can reach you. The police took a report, shrugged. No forced entry, no witnesses, paperwork without protection. That night, I stayed at my brother's place, jumped at every sound. Cancer never made me feel this exposed. The next week, Marcus showed up somewhere I never expected. My cancer support group. He sat in the circle, hands folded, sharing a story about supporting a sick girlfriend who had turned on him. He didn't look at me, but he didn't need to. Everyone knew. When it was my turn to speak, I kept my voice calm. I talked about remission, about learning who truly shows up, about boundaries. The coordinator watched him closely after the meeting. She pulled me aside. He called last week asking about the group. I won't let him back. Small victory. But it mattered. Nina and I started documenting everything. Every text, every sighting, every third-party message. We filed for restraining orders, so did Rachel. So did another woman who finally came forward. 4 women, 4 stories, 1 pattern. The judge granted them. Marcus was ordered to stay away. He didn't accept that quietly. He emailed a nonprofit I applied to for work, using his uncle's influence, trying to monitor me, control access, create pressure. I withdrew immediately, refused the trap. Then came the anonymous blog post painting himself as the victim of mentally unstable women, using words like persecution and misunderstanding. I didn't respond. I focused on healing, real healing, therapy, boundaries, rebuilding trust in myself. Nina moved, changed her number, started over, and then, finally, something shifted. With the evidence we had gathered, the recordings, the spreadsheets, the testimonies, we sent everything to Marcus's employer, not HR, the CEO. 2 days later, Marcus was fired. He showed up at my door that night, pounding, yelling, demanding I fix it. I didn't open the door. I called the police, recorded everything. By morning, I had another restraining order, stronger, clearer. I slept for the first time in weeks. Cancer taught me how to endure pain. Marcus taught me how to recognize danger, and now I was finally learning how to protect myself. Would you have gone public or stayed quiet like I did? Do you think restraining orders really protect people? After Marcus lost his job, things went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you listen harder. I kept expecting retaliation, a lawsuit, a smear campaign. Another rose. Instead, something unexpected happened. One of his exes reached out. Her name was Hannah. She had dated Marcus years before me, long before cancer entered my life. She said she had seen a vague post Nina shared about manipulation. It had stirred something she had buried. We met for coffee, and as she spoke, the pieces locked into place. He isolated her controlled money, tracked her spending. When her father died and left her an inheritance, Marcus accelerated everything. Marriage, joint accounts. Pressure. When she hesitated, he threatened legal action, said he had invested in the relationship and deserved compensation. She paid him to leave. Hearing that broke something inside me, not just anger, recognition. This wasn't new. I wasn't special. I was just the most recent. With Hannah's story, the pattern stretched back years. Different women. Same methods. I contacted a civil attorney named Claire. She specialized in psychological manipulation and financial abuse. We brought everything. Recordings, notes, timelines, testimonies. Claire was quiet for a long time as she reviewed it all. This isn't just unethical, she said. It's systematic. Criminal charges were unlikely. Too much lived in gray areas, but civil action, exposure, documentation. Those were possible. Instead of rushing into court, we chose strategy. With help from Ryan, we built something quiet, careful, a private resource, a warning system. Nothing emotional, no accusations, just verifiable facts, aliases, employment history, restraining orders, patterns. We shared it discreetly through support groups, cancer communities, widow forums, places. Marcus hunted. Weeks passed. Then a message arrived. A young woman thanking us, saying she had checked the site before meeting someone new and recognized him. Another message followed, then another, small ripples, but real ones. I started a new job with a different nonprofit, helping patients navigate treatment and recovery. Standing in front of rooms full of people who understood, who had survived, who were still fighting. It felt like reclaiming something Marcus had tried to poison. One night, months later, I saw him in a grocery store. Older, tired. Avoiding eye contact, he turned down another aisle. I felt nothing. No fear, no triumph. Just distance. Cancer had taken my sense of control. Marcus had tried to steal my future, but together we had built something stronger than either of those things: awareness, connection, protection. And for the first time, I believed survival could mean more than just staying alive. Do you think exposing patterns is more powerful than legal action? Would you have joined a warning network like this? 3 months passed without incident, and I almost let myself believe it was over. Then Nina texted me late one afternoon. I just saw him with a new girl. She sent the location: a small cafe downtown, the one Marcus used to take me to. The back booth away from Windows control disguised as privacy. I drove there anyway and waited across the street. Hannah joined me. Minutes later, Rachel followed. We sat in Nina's car watching through the glass. The girl looked young, barely 20. Marcus leaned close, touching her arm, smiling softly, the same smile he used on me when I was scared. We couldn't storm in. That would only help his story. So I called Ryan. He was already nearby. Within minutes, he slipped into the cafe with his laptop. He told us when she connected to the Wi-Fi. Then he sent the information quietly: public records articles, restraining orders, facts only. We watched her face change: confusion, fear, recognition. She excused herself and went to the bathroom. Marcus checked his watch, annoyed. When she returned, she sat farther away. She said she had to leave early. She refused his offer to walk her out. We followed at a distance. She reached her car safely. Before driving away, she looked toward us. Just a small nod. Enough that night, I couldn't sleep. For every woman who walked away, how many never would? Marcus would adapt. New names, new stories, new hunting grounds. A week later, my brother called. Marcus had applied for a job at his company. Different last name. Same resume. The role involved advising people through lost perfect access. I sent a short file to the department, had termination notice. Restraining orders, verified facts, nothing more. The next morning, Marcus arrived for his interview. Security walked him out. No scene, no explanation. I thought of cancer again, how it had stripped me down to essentials. Breath, hope time. I thought of the women who had reached out, the ones who listened, the ones who weren't ready. We couldn't save everyone, but we could slow him, warn them, stand together. Sometimes survival isn't quiet. Sometimes it looks like vigilance. And sometimes it means refusing to look away. That night, I called Claire to update her. She reminded me to document everything: dates, times, witnesses. Patterns matter. She said, evidence outlives emotion. I checked my locks twice, set the camera alerts, changed my routes again. It was tiring, but it was working. Messages kept coming. Women asking questions. Women thanking us. Women whispering fear. I answered when I could, rested when I needed, and kept going. I knew the end was approaching, not his end, but mine with this chapter. Healing waited ahead, and I was ready. Still, I promised myself one thing: never silence, never secrecy, never again alone. This time I would finish standing, and that made all the difference for me, for them. For whoever comes next, we keep watching together, always now. Would you step in quietly like we did, or confront him directly? Do you think warning someone anonymously is enough? I thought distance would dull everything. That time would soften the sharp edges of what Marcus had done, but some patterns don't fade. They wait. The message came from Hannah late one night. He's active again, different name, same photos. She sent screenshots. A new profile, a new story. Supportive, caring, emotionally intelligent. I felt tired instead of angry. Predators don't reinvent themselves, they recycle. This time we decided to be deliberate. With Ryan's help, we created a profile. A woman named Maya, recently lost her mother, inherited a house. Emotionally steady but grieving. Marcus messaged within days. His opening line was gentle, sympathetic, perfect. Over weeks he followed his script. Affection, concern. Subtle questions about finances. Suggestions disguised as help. When he asked to meet, we agreed. A public restaurant, bright, busy. Marcus arrived early, scanning the room, claiming space. Instead of Maya, he found us. Me. Nina, Hannah, Rachel, Ryan stood near the exit recording. Marcus froze, then recalculated. This is harassment, he said quietly. I'll call the police. Rachel met his eyes. Explain why you were asking a stranger about her inheritance. He looked around, not for help but for control. You can't stop me, he said. There will always be someone. Maybe, I replied, but there will always be warnings too. For the first time, his smile didn't return. He left without another word. Months passed. The alert slowed, then stopped. A year later, I saw him again at a grocery store. Older, smaller somehow. He turned away. I felt nothing. My cancer had been in remission for 18 months. My life had filled with work that mattered, people who showed up, joy that felt earned. I still check the system sometimes, still answer messages, still believe vigilance saves lives, but I no longer live in fear. Cancer taught me my body could break and heal. Marcus taught me trust must be earned, and community taught me survival is never meant to be solitary. I removed the extra locks from my door, not because danger vanished, but because I refused to let it define me. If you're listening to this, if something feels wrong, if love feels conditional, if support comes with strings, trust that instinct. Monsters thrive in silence, but they weaken in the light. I'm still standing, still watching, still living. And that is something he will never take from me. Do you believe confronting someone like this actually works? Would you have walked away earlier if you were in my place? The story didn't end with a dramatic arrest or a public apology. Real life rarely does. It ended quietly, which felt right. A few months after the restaurant confrontation, I received an email from a woman named Amber. She was the girl from the cafe, the one who had walked away. She said she recognized me from photos on Marcus's phone. He had shown her pictures of me, warned her about his unstable ex, told her I was a lesson. The irony didn't hurt anymore. She thanked me, said she was dating someone kind now, said she checked everything twice, trust but verify. She wrote, I forwarded her message to our group. Small victories matter. Life kept moving, as it always does. My remission passed 18 months, then 2 years. My hair grew back, stronger, thicker. I stood in front of rooms full of patients and told my story. Not about Marcus. Not really about listening to yourself. About letting go of people who disappear when you need them. About understanding that love should never feel like a transaction. Sometimes after talks, women stayed behind. Eyes red, voices shaking. They told me things they had never said out loud, and every time I listened, because I remembered how much it mattered when someone listened to me. The warning system still exists. Quiet, private. Careful. We don't chase. We don't provoke. We don't play hero. We share information. We answer questions. We believe women that alone changes outcomes. I ran into Marcus one last time, at a pharmacy. He looked thinner, more tired. When he saw me, he turned away. No threats, no anger, just retreat. I felt nothing. Not forgiveness, not rage, freedom. That night, I sat on my balcony and thought about the girl I was when this started. The one who believed love was proven by endurance. The one who thought sickness was weakness. I was wrong. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is a doorway, and who walks through it tells you everything. Cancer took my illusion of safety. Marcus took advantage of it, but survival gave me something better. Clarity, community, choice. If you're hearing this and something feels familiar, if someone in your life grows distant when you're struggling, if care turns conditional, if love feels measured, pay attention. You are not imagining it. You are not dramatic. You are not difficult. You deserve support that doesn't keep score. I didn't survive cancer to shrink my life. I survived to live it fully. Eyes open, boundaries. Firm, heart intact. For every predator, there are people willing to stand together. For every lie, there is truth waiting to be spoken. And for every woman who feels alone, there is a network you just haven't found yet. I'm still here, still living, still choosing myself. And that is the ending I fought for. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Do you believe experiences like this make people stronger or more guarded?